Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi. It has such a wonderful day. It's a Friday, and of course, it's not just a Friday. It's the first day in October. It's the Independence Day. It's the 61st Independence Day celebration of Nigeria, and we're glad to be streaming from Nigeria. Actually, we're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. We are excited and we are so encouraged that today's show is an Independence Day edition. And we believe that our conversations today will also drive towards getting us to be independent in some measure, not just as individuals, but as a sector and as professionals as well. I'd like to really bring up our analysts today. We will be hitting this show back to back from the morning. Our show will probably just get into the swing of the day. We're bringing up Folu first. And of course, I'd like to say, Folu, good morning. How are you today? Thank you for
Good
joining us.
morning.
Independence.
Good morning. Happy birthday to Nigeria. 61 years is not easy, but
So,
we're here.
cakes are on you. Cakes are on you.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were going to say cakes are in the fridge when you started with cakes.
No,
So yeah, I'm looking forward to having my cake. Thank you. Happy birthday,
yeah.
Nigeria. And this is praying that by the time it's October 1 next year, we'll be counting our blessings, not the losses.
We believe
Uh,
so. So, Dr. Motola, welcome to the show. Good morning, all the way from the United States of America. Dr. Motola, are you there? Dr. Motola, are you there? All right. So, while we wait for the connections to be clear, I'd like us to go straight to the headlines. And I believe that it is important for us um, to note this is coming from the reaction of Nigerians. Um, it says Nigerians react as President Buhari calls for unity as the country clocks 61. I'm going to start with Finn, then I'm coming back to Dr. Motola.
yeah, definitely. I'm sure the president expected the reaction. If you're going to call for unity, then it should start. We should see it starting from the top. We don't see or have a sense of federal unity right now in the country. And so making it look like, oh, the country is in disunity because the citizens are are the ones responsible for it, or they're not united, is like it's like adding salt to injury. It's like just adding pepper to the whole thing and making it worse. So if there's going to be a call for unity, then it should be coming from the top. And it shouldn't even just be a call. It should be seen that we have a central government that is working out uniting the country, uniting every part, every segment, and seeing to the all round development of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Motola, if you're there, could you also respond to this?
Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, but a little bit faint.
Okay, is this better now?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, good morning, happy new month, happy birthday, Nigeria. So yes, I agree that I think that we don't want speech from a from where he is. He is not leading by action, like by example, like as Finn rightly said. So I think this is not the time for just speech on unity. Like I think if you really want to talk on unity, you should have example. But this is how unity has been displayed. People in the past 1 year, you should talk about fast movements and all of the things that have happened and how young people have. But I don't see any of that in his speech. So I think that he needs to um, like lead by example and not just use words and try to cajole people when he knows that he's not going to even do half of what he said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll make you guys laugh shortly, but let's go to the next headline. Um, the next headline is make policies that will solve problems. ANCOP snaps tell government that ANCOPS is, I think, the association for private for principals of schools, and NAPS is association for proprietors as well. So let's hear from Fee on that.
Yes. Well, we all know that it's the policies that lead and take the head when it comes to making changes that will cut across board in the education system, and changes that are far-reaching, that it's not just things that are peculiar to particular institutions. So over time, it doesn't look like we have seen policies that are out to solve the problems in the education system. Rather, policies come up that seem to like just it may solve one problem, but it opens up a myriad of others, and so we keep turning the system that way, keep turning the wheels that way, and just recycling for on the same spot. So as it looks like, oh, it's getting better, it's actually not getting better. Is getting worse on one side. So yes, what ANCOPs and apps they're called to the government is timely, but as all of these things go, it's Independence Day, so we're going to come across a lot of calls. We're going to come across a lot of SMSs and everything for Independence Day celebration. It looks like, yeah, we already got the press releases ready for today. Beyond that, what the my poser would be: are there is there anything that ANCOPs and NAPS can do to ensure that this doesn't just end as calling on the government to make policies, but being active in seeing that these things actually come to fruition and come to play? That would be my poser to them this morning.
Thank you very much. Let's move straight to the next headline. Insecurity strikes underfunding bug education sector. Dr. Motola, let's have your thoughts on this as well.
Yes, I think we are just preaching to the choir by this headline. I think we all know that this is a big issue in our education system. And one of the things that brought up for me was that I wonder if a survey or research was done on post-traumatic stress disorder on students. I'm sure the Nigerian students on different levels are going to test on a higher rate for that in a way, because I think over the past few years we've really, really been tested in our education system due to these insecurities and things like that. So I'll say stop preaching to the choir. What like you were saying to regarding the other headline, what action steps can we take? What are tangible things that can be done gradually to really move things along, to change things, to get wings for the good side of the guy. Not that every time it's the bad guys that we keep elevating and amplifying in the news. When do we will see a headline that says, "Oh, this happened. Government zero, education or government two versus zero," something like that as we go forward. So yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. The next headline says Unizik FEC approves 2.1 billion for hostels, stadium projects. Fee.
On this, I would hope that the larger percentage of that fund is to the hostel projects, because one major issue, as much as yes, recreation and vocational activities are part of learning, you can only have people come out for recreation when they have a place to lay their heads when they're done at the stadium. And from the experience that many of us had in the Nigerian school system, university system particularly, the hostels are nothing to write home about. In fact, if they were to do open houses in universities and you were to see your hostel before going, many people would dump university education. So I'm hoping that Unizik will put a larger percentage of that into getting proper hostel accommodation for their students, and then you can balance it up with a befitting stadium. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then we'll move to the next headline. Senator Okorocha, while celebrating his birthday, my target is to take 1 million less privileged children off the streets. Dr. Motala, let's hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I will say happy birthday to you first and foremost, and then also I think that's an audacious goal, and I hope I is able to make it happen. But my question is like, what is he doing right now beyond just declaring? Like, what step is he taking? How many has he taken off out of that 1 million target? So it's not enough to have a target if he is not eating it. But I'm inspired and happy that at least he's committing and standing up and declaring that, you know what, this is something I want to fight for. I want to fight for street kid. And I think that is always a good thing when people stand for the less privileged and are willing to put their money and their action where their mouth is. So I hope it's not just all mouth. I hope we get to see the money, we get to see the action, and we get to see the resources that goes to them as well over the coming months and years. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that as well. Um, Finn, do you want to add to that?
Yes, well, what I'll just add is that over time, Senator Charles Okorocha is one that is known to be a champion of providing quality free education for indigenous students across the country. So for him, it's not about the part of the country where you're from, in the north, in the east, and the south. I'm not sure if he's not in every state of the country that he has his schools for these children where tuition is free, they have their uniforms, they are fed, they have buses, they're treated like they have that experience of private school without their parents being able to afford it. So I think this is him just um, declaring his manifesto that, well, with what he has done so far, his target is to reach 1 million. And yeah, the there may be things that people probably don't like about him, but this one is one that we have seen his footprints, we have seen what he has done, and yes, he should be applauded and also supported. Thank you.
Finn, you had to put that cherry on the cake. Okay,
Tempting me with cake this
2023.
morning.
You said?
Yeah, really tempting me with cake this morning.
Oh, in fact, there's a lot of cake around me. Yeah, there's a lot of cake around me. It's a cake
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah, not
Dr.
fair.
Watala, 2023, Benue Governor's Chief of Staff, 4 commissioners resign. Let's hear from Dr. Motala first.
So I was trying to read why they resigned, and so I'm just before I comment on it. So do you know the background to why they're resigning?
Okay, so most times, when people get to prepare for elections, if you're in the same party or in the same government, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you're in different party or in the same government and you have ambitions to run, it's almost like it's honorable thing. The honorable thing to do is for you to probably resign to get ready because it's possible you are aiming for an office that you have to be prepared for, but you have to lobby for, and then your principal might not have openly endorsed you yet. So that there are no conflicts of interest. A lot of times people just begin to position themselves ahead of their plans.
Okay, thank you. And so, based on that background, I think it's a good thing because that says a lot about the leadership of that particular person when four of his aide are resigning. Because like most of the time, most people want to hold on to their own position and they don't want anybody to like rise up. That is the trend we've seen in like recent years. But I think things are changing for the better now, where younger people, people under other authority and leadership, now have the courage and the opportunity to say, you know what, I actually want to go further. I believe I can add value and I would like to also stake my claim in the political race. So I think it's a good thing. And I like the fact that they are asked to do that in advance of the 2023 race. So I think it's honorable and I wish them all the very best.
We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Let's have a last headline. Official.
Okay.
Ondo Public School resumes for 2021-2022 session October 4.
Nice. We hope that the schools are ready for the students. Many times students are ready for the schools, but we can't always say that about the schools. So as they go back to schools, I hope that the government has their COVID protocol in place. I hope that for once, public school students will resume to beautiful classrooms. It's not a preserve of private school students alone, and that the teachers are ready to give of themselves in a different way this term. So that's it for me about the resumption.
Dr. Motola, any thoughts on that? Dr. Motola, do you want to say anything on that? Okay, so maybe we just head over to the main conversation of the day. Universities going Glocal. And I'm sure, I said earlier that I was going to make you laugh. Someone sent me a message that said, and called my attention to the word Glocal. That was that an error? And of course, I, I just smiled at it. It's not an error. Glocal actually is an adaptation from global and local. Having the context of doing things with the vision and the spectrum of a far extensive reach, which is global, but not necessarily moving away from your host community or your location of domain or your origin or base. So we're saying that having maximal impact, even though you are within a particular geographical space. And eventually, what that means is that you have the heart, you have the mind, you have the vision, you have the pursuit to come across as one who believes that the principle of globalization is not just for selected few, it's available to everyone and it's available to those who are willing to put the work to make it happen. So let's hear from you. University going Glocal. Let's hear from Ify. Over to you.
Okay, so maybe when I saw the headline or the title also topic, I kind of expected that there was going to be that uh, uh, perception that, oh, it was an error, oh, they just moved this G and did not realize that it was there. But when we look at, for especially in, maybe it's a little better in our university system in the country where they have a focus, the curriculum is not as as confusing as it is for primary and secondary schools, where you're hearing things like blended curriculum, mixed curriculum, is not like that. But then the other in our university system is that they're very local focused. So the students are not, they if they don't add to their learning, if they don't consciously go out to do something more to their learning, they're usually not globally relevant. What they're learning are from textbooks, from the 70s, from the 60s, from knowledge that the lecturers are bringing from when they were students in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And those things don't even exist anymore. Those things are no longer relevant. So the problem that we have had in most of our universities, especially where they are government owned, federal or states, is that thing where, yes, the students could graduate with first class, but then their first class does not exceed the state they graduated from. It's just there. And they find themselves as local champions when they have to go for masters or have to compete with professionals from the same field, but who had global exposure, then it becomes a problem. They can't really fit in. There are concepts they are struggling with. And this is what our universities should be focused on. The fact that you are domiciled in a particular location does not limit your reach, does not limit your impact to that location. And it also does not mean that, okay, so because you are called maybe the Canadian University of Nigeria, and let's say the person that founded it is a Nigerian, but would like for Nigerian students to have an immersion in the Canadian culture and practices and all of that. It still doesn't mean that we now lose our identity in the midst of all that and say, oh, well, we can never be Canadians no matter what we do. We are Nigerians. So we don't lose that identity. We can fuse parts of the Nigerian identity and who we are and the things we do. We're not second class in any way. I read a story, was it yesterday or day before, of the first heart and kidney surgeon in the world, the only one so far. He's a Nigerian man. So we're not second class. We shouldn't be struggling to lose our identity under some other global identities. So if we can plant our foot or our feet firmly in that and say, yes, we know where we're domiciled, we know where we come from, we know what we have to offer, but we're adding global relevance to it, then we have our universities on their way to being global. Thank you.
Dr. Motola, I believe you're available now.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, so let's hear from you.
So can you help me give a recap of what Glocal is? I missed that part. Sorry.
What's your own thought with the word glocal?
Okay, so I think it's like bringing in the best of both worlds, taking what works both locally and globally and infusing it together to help the education system be the best and serve the student the best way. So it's not saying that local is bad and that global is the best. It's saying that, you know what, we acknowledge that there is always some good and positive from both the local and the global. How can we bring these things together and fuse them together for the good of our students and use that as a lens to build and to innovate and to make the education system better. So that will be my own take on it.
Absolutely. And before I let you go on that, so you've been able to look at it. The word glocal is more like a twist and an adaptation, using the word global and bringing it into the reality of local. And if we wanted to make it very specific, we're talking about universities in Nigeria it seems like their primary domain and their primary audience and concern is just to Nigerians and for Nigerians. And we've seen even within West Africa, where many people are beginning to see that some universities and higher institutions are actually open and sometimes create a drive to engage other nationals, and you see them in a local domain, you see them in a local place, but they are now driving to enjoy and leverage the principle of globalization. And that's where you begin to see so many things. So I really want you to tell us, what are the areas you will consider that universities should begin to put focus on, should begin to go into as a means of local reality, but global, with global perspectives?
Absolutely. Thank you. So one will be in the area of funding education. Like I think it's now a very tiresome song and game because I was hoping I could comment on the headline, about the 2.1 billion investment. So apparently they've been trying to get that 2.1 billion since 2007. Please, if you do that calculation, that's over 5 years. No, yes, that's over, wait, more than 10 years. That is because 2007, 2017, that's 10 years span, right? That they've not been able to get this money. So, and when they further broke it down, they said they tried in 2007, they tried in 2010, they tried in 2013, they tried in 2015, and finally now in 2021, hopefully 2022, they are not going to get it. But the headline further now said that they needed actually 4.2 billion. So the 2.1 that they wanted in 2007 has now gone to 4.2 of what they will need to complete this project. And so one of the areas that I really hope that we can bring this intersection of global and local together to help our university be more sustainable, not to just have one stream of income that is all else fail and the federal government is not paying them, then they go on strike and then they create disruption for students in their education, will be in funding. Like let us explore, let us study, like, and we don't say that you just take it on, like study what is working. How does universities across the world, how do they fund beyond just the government investment? And what can we do to actually build and start implementing while we put the flavor of the local onto the practices that we're getting from the global in terms of how do we fund the university beyond the government? What does that look like? What would that take? What, especially the public university? So I'll say that's the biggest one for me because we know that without funding, things don't move. Without funding, that's why we have 3 months of strike, 4 months of this and all, and it really disrupt education. It disrupt the flow. It makes students want to give up on their education, make them want to not even continue. Because imagine you were already planning to spend 4 years in university or 5 years, and then you end up spending 7 years. There's a demotivation to that, and so that'll be one big one for me in this conversation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And just while you're speaking, our wonderful, delectable, exciting, powerful KK walked into the studios. Good morning, KK. Good to have you here. Your mic is muted.
Yes, good morning. Happy Independence Day. It's always good to be here. I'm happy I have the time this morning to hop onto the show. So it's great to be here.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so we are talking about universities going global. And global seems to be the new word, which is the adaptation of global and local. We're staying in local place, but we are actually having global footprint, global outreach, global outcome, global outlook, right? And I really want to hear from KK, especially looking at universities in Nigeria, you know,
Mhm.
what what are those areas of concerns in getting our universities to actually make this shift? How can that be leverage for them?
Yeah, so I mean, as Dr. Motola was talking, what I was thinking about was sometimes, right, we start there's nothing wrong in starting big, which I think is beautiful. But there are times where the littlest things that we do give us so much mileage. So instead of us thinking about the whole university, can we look at a department? For example, we have departments of cultural studies, we have departments of arts, right? We have departments of languages. Why can't we find a university out there to collaborate with and tell them, oh, you're doing African history, so why can't we teach you African history? And what happens is the exchange programs is either the lecturers go there or we do it virtually. I mean, one of my cousins right now is doing her master's, and a lot of her courses are virtual. Yes, she's going to have some in-class courses, but a lot of them are virtual. And so for the first 2 weeks that she's been there, she's only been virtual. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So we need to begin to think like that in Nigerian university because, like as Motala said, funding is a big deal. That's when you think about funding the entire university and think of moving it or having maybe an outreach campus or something like that. But if we begin to think about collaborations, begin to think about how we can put a foot here, a finger there, an eye here, a little toe there, then we begin to see the fact that we are actually local, but then we're global. And what then begins to happen is if we can focus on those small pieces of us that we have put out there, and like Omotala was saying, we make it so good. There's no strike affecting it. All those itinerant issues that generally affect universities are not in there. Already, our integrity goes up, right? The quality of that we produce, perception shifts, it changes. Why? Because there's a little part of us that has been seen, and that's why I love what Ngozi is doing. Yeah, because she's taking us out there, right? And so many other people who have put us out there on the map. And they look at those people and say, oh, we cannot continue to tar the entire Nigeria or African continent, saying they're all bad because of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. I'm saying so that's how I would begin to think about it. Fine-tune those departments, create collaborations with other universities outside of Nigeria, starting with, I mean, the what we might see as the basic things, which really are not, those sort of things. And then we can actually then be global, right? Because we have our departments of African Studies of University of Benin, domiciled in another university somewhere else. So those are the things that I would see. And then when we begin that interaction with other universities, other professors, other academicians, even begin to collect that data, because for me, data is everything. Data is life, to be honest. When we begin to collect all that data based on the fact that we are interacting a bit more closely with these universities, we can bring that back and then begin to fine-tune our systems, be great locally, right? And then begin to say how much more things can we begin to export to the global audience. So that's my initial submission. Back to you, Rotimi.
Thank you very much. Just like you said, just thinking about the illustration and the specifics, there will be, in fact, I think it's this kind of thing that will really show what true collaboration is, because there's no way. I don't think. Let me not be too. Let me not be too emphatic, but I don't think we can fully leverage and achieve going global without collaboration coming into the picture. I don't think so, and we sometimes see that it's like we don't have an inclusive world within the tertiary institution. It's like they're in the world of their own, and they sometimes leave it so. And so sometimes it looks like if they are not careful, these people seem stuck on their pattern. How can disruption be made? How can we disrupt this kind of thing? I want to ask Fee, over to you.
Okay, so disruption. What do you're throwing the disruption question at me? So, how can we disrupt the current system we have to go global? I was just thinking about it that without demand, supply is useless, and thinking about the concept of going global and the things that need to be done, and I'm asking myself, are we ready? Is the population ready for it? And I'll give an example, a first-hand example that I know of a young man who uh, got into the what's it called now? Distance learning program for UI. And because it's a distance learning program, what would normally be a school program of 4 years is 5 years for them. And then they're not, well, at the time, I don't know if they've changed that now, but at the time, distance learning students were not processed for NYSC. And somehow, I don't know why, he decided to keep going. He got to the 4th year, he had 1 year left, and he dropped out of the school, because he dropped out of the program because he won't be able to go for service. That was the reason he dropped out. And so I I find myself asking, are we really ready for the disruption? Are we really ready for this, for what going local really would demand of us? Or it's business as usual? You can imagine maybe having to tell parents that, look, your child is in the university, but they're not leaving home. Their studies would be on a laptop or maybe on their phones, and they're studying right on from under your roof. They can do other things. It opens them up to be able to do other things with their life while they're studying. It opens them up to be able to gain experience. It opens them up to meeting people from different parts of the world, even if it's virtual, but they're making connection. They're making they're networking. And at the end of the day, they get their certificates. It's not different. The only difference from going to a physical school is that they're not there physically. Are we, how many parents are ready for this? How many students themselves are ready for this? And when I think disruption, I think about a change in and a shift in our mindset, a shift in the, oh, this is how it's always been. And so if it's not the way we have always known it to be, then we kick against it. So many more correspondence schools are coming up. We have quite a number of them in Nigeria offering international education for Nigerian students right from the comfort of their homes. But how many people are really embracing this? So we're thinking, who will recognize the certificates? I want to run a contract for the government in future. Would I be recognized to be a graduate of a country? So I think the major disruption that we will be needing, or that we should be working at, is in our mindsets, and turning, starting from our minds, going global and international, and then we can, it will make it easier to transition our universities to being local. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As we're speaking, we got to have Ademi Sola, the powerful global opportunity advocate, and of course, Olushola Olumide. And we have someone, we have a big fish in our midst today. We have Dr. Rhoda. Row your boat.
I miss you all so much. Oh my goodness. It has been a very long time. See everybody. KK. Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh, Dr.
So
Motala. I spoke to
we're
Dr.
talking about
Motala. Everyone. Yeah. Thank you so much.
universities going
Going
global,
global.
right? So let's hear from Darren, because Darren is actually in the heart of this topic. I was going to be surprised if she didn't come up today. I'll fight her. Eh? So Darren, let's hear from you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So yeah, university is going global. Let's put it that way. I would say that we have it's there are pros and cons. Because why I say that is there are we really ready in the sense that I see the entry level students not having enough, let's say, enough maturity to stay focused just by learning online. So I would say we could, and that is because of, well, I say how they grew up. Unlike maybe, I remember in 2018 I was in Scotland. A 6-year-old was already doing research on her assignments online, right? She would, that's my Chris's daughter, Elena. She would already do research online. So from at the age of 6, it became a norm for her to even like be online. and actually be working online. Right. But that is not the case for us in Nigeria here. We grew up, like being compelled to learn. And I always say, like, one of the major challenges I see in class, even like when we go to teach them, especially at the entry level, is they don't even know how to learn. They don't know how to learn. So it is when you are teaching them and you don't go back to teaching them how to learn, it is a problem. So I'm supposed to be just your facilitator, as in like there's nothing like I'm just here to teach you, so or facilitate your learning. So it means that it is pretty difficult to even migrate them into that mindset of, oh, you can learn online independently. And it is amazing that they have phones that they are always on. But I always say, when you don't make people aware of what they have, they actually don't realize they have. So if they are in that mindset or in that mind space that you cannot, they are not ready for that online learning, which like I think as Finney said, it exposes them to a bigger network. And I always say this, I always say networking is a 21st century currency, right? But the question is, even if it is a bigger space or a bigger place to harness what is there, when they don't even go there, so is a challenge. So you had better still be keeping them in a physical environment where you can first build what should have been built earlier, where you can first build their awareness towards what they can get from it, before you can now say, okay, you are independent enough. Even if, as I always said, it's the same thing with staff. As in, if you get a virtual staff and you don't first do that physical orientation of them understanding how this works, you are joking. You would have a lot of problem with them. So I think we are not ready because of how we were raised in this part of the world, how we were raised to learn. We were raised to cram or to feel like school is not. We were not raised to be lifelong learners. Let me put it that way. And for you to lifelong learning requires discipline and wanting to learn. So it is the wanting to learn that is lacking in the generation that is current. Is a lack of that. So I don't think we are ready. Even if I always say it like, we are in the awareness stage, as I'm sure you'd have seen the conference I'm trying to organize for African youth across 36 countries. It is a lot of awareness, to tell them like, look, if you have this, then you can network. Like, there are no borders, or like the walls of your school, there are no borders. But it is important that we first hammer that awareness before we now say, oh, everybody has gone global. Everybody is now learning online. Like, there is no discipline to learn online. That's just the truth. So until they are aware of the importance, until people know how important something is and what it is in need for them on the long term, they won't comply. So it will be a waste on both, like they are not gaining the physical thing, and online too, they are not gaining. So I would suggest is a continuous migration, not for the entry level, maybe the postgraduate level, fine, if they have enough maturity to know that nobody is compelling you to learn. But the entry level 200, I doubt it would work really.
All right, thank you very much, Darren. Yes, you have raised very valid points there, and so this takes me to, what's our readiness like for going global, or for going glocal? Are we really ready for this stage, for this phase in our education system? You have talked about the readiness, getting students ready. Schools just resumed, and for very many of them, there were long lists of textbooks for children to buy, some 4 textbooks to one subject, and where a child is taking 12, 14 subjects, so the number of textbooks that they have to go through. What really should our preparation be for going Glocal? And I will take that to Rhoda.
So I know that the topic is universities and is going global. I'll take a different thinking around it, because there are like structural things that needs to be done for going global. What does it even mean to go global? What it means is to be committed to funding and investment on all the features of globalization. And one of them, the strongest ones, is the advancement technology that we have. It's using innovative financing to support your school systems and administration, figuring out the best practices, especially as fitting your context for curriculum, and then working out pastoral or strategic student experience, including things like volunteering and work opportunities, and then making sure that there is facilities that are fit for purpose. And to my mind, these things, I don't see why in the world we cannot do them, apart from the fact that we're not putting our mouth or our actions where our mouth is. I always sort of like frown at when we forget that there's something called leapfrogging. And that's what we're already doing. We're leapfrogging a lot of things in Nigeria, in Africa, because we are in the industrialization phase of almost every sector in the world. So hence, even our farming or our agro sector is leapfrogging. Our hospitals are leapfrogging. Our leisure and entertainment and hospitality are all leapfrogging. And leapfrogging means that we're not using brute, crude tools to get them going. Somebody will say, where is the skill set for that to happen? Well, drop a device in a remote part of Ekpe for a group of 6-year-olds, and I tell you for free that they will manipulate that device. What they're doing is that they're using that device's language. And so what we should be actually interested in is in having all of those structures that ensure that we have those and be committed to investing in those. We cannot, we have a lot of diamonds in the rough. And so if a student comes into a school and the structure of the school is that you will use critical analysis, believe me, that's what you would do. You don't have a choice. And especially if the experience of that critical analysis is your total experience, considering that you may have gaps, and those gaps are going to be created in opportunities for you to close them. So that's my thoughts. I'm totally not in really for where are we now in terms of are they going to be able to do it? Is what are the structures that are put in place to ensure that we do it, and what's the entire experience, and what does globalization mean? And building and facilitating and financing that globalization is what we should be thinking about, because whatever we give to the students is what they receive. It's kind of like taking a medium, two mediums, separate mediums in a science lab, and you put a material in them. Every material will respond to its medium. So it is when we're trying to raise children. That is why the Jesuits of the Catholic Church will tell you that give me a child before he turns 8 and I'll make him a priest. And they say it for a reason. It is no situation is 100%, but it's because they're saying that the culture and the medium in which they will raise the person will likely give you an 8 to 10%, an 8 out of 10 chance of making that person either a priest or close to being a priest. Yeah, and that's it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't too sure if I lost connection anyway. No, thank you so much for that. And as we round off this morning, I would ask Olumide Olushola, in going Glocal, who should be championing the cause? Who should be leading the way in setting the is in treading the path to our universities to go global?
Thank you, and good morning, everyone in the house and our tribe members watching online. I will want to address that question riding on the wings of what Darren has said and what Rhoda has said. You know, as Rhoda was talking, a lot of things was running through my mind. When you talk about going global, we are talking about domesticating what goes on abroad or what goes on in the globe. I said I'll be riding on their wings. Number one, infrastructure from what Rhoda has said. Number two, concentration on what Darren has said. I'll start from the infrastructure. It is good to always want to domesticate. And if you go back, go and check all the United Nations treaties after they are sorted out, then individual countries will be asked to go back and domesticate. Why we don't really have 100% domestication is because some infrastructures are not in place. Those things at best only exist on papers. I give a very good example. One of my boys is doing forensic in the UK. And as we speak in Nigeria, there is no university that offers forensic. The one that is done in UI is a professional program. So I was asking him, how far with your exams, your first semester? He said, we're trying to write our exam. I said, how did he go? He said, yeah, there's no cramming. You can't even cheat on your neighbor. They took him to the site and set a car on fire. After setting the car on fire, the car burned for a while. They put off the fire and they asked him to go inside. I hope you are aware, to set a car on fire in Nigeria, that will cause a serious indebtedness. Nobody even wants to try it. Which car? Car that should be used for Uber or boat. Set it on fire. Say waiting happen. Because you want land, I beg, stay on your lane. These are some of the things we're talking about. In the practical sense, you could read fingerprint, crime detection, because it specializes in crime scene detection. And what he was trying to do his dissertation, so he called me and we were trying to get across to Abuja. As we speak, they are only setting up the desk, or they have the desk for forensic. The department didn't exist. I'm talking of Nigerian Police Force nationally. So if you want to go Glocal thinking about that, that tells you a Nigerian student that want to study forensic will find it difficult to do. Now, coming about concentration, I think it requires more blood to remain concentrated or focused. You know, you are just doing something. You wonder, some of these children, they go online, they play on Facebook, on Twitter, they laugh, they chat. Because, fine, they are engaging, they are talking. But there is little or no seriousness attached to what they are doing. Whether they do it right or they are not doing it right, it doesn't have any repercussion. However, if you are writing an exam, you know you have to do it right, or else there will be repercussion. So that concentration will require muzzling your whole personality. I remember going to a school and I was talking to them. The topic I spoke on was on the tyranny of freedom. Until the younger generation is able to surmount the tyrant called freedom. Yeah, freedom is good. I hope you understand me, the perspective I'm looking at freedom now. That's why I'm calling it the tyranny. And I needed to tell them, you are young, yes, you have energy, you can jump and run, but you lack experience. If you lack the discipline to sit down and do what you need to do, as at the time it needs to be done, you're going to waste your life. This man, renowned lawyer, Afe Babalola, I read his profile, he did correspondence, law and economics. They were sending it to him, he was reading. And I have also learned that the worst thing that can happen to you is to have Afe Babalola cross-examine you in a court of law. You will sweat under AC. That man learned through correspondence. And he developed the mastery to that point that even the so-called lawyers who go to the four wall of a university in our current day hardly matches is kind of a debt. So I feel it's good to go global. Infrastructure-wise, some things will impede us. Then concentration-wise, on the road, on campus, we see them. At times you wonder, you are even driving on the road, you have to beg the student to go on the walkway. I say, but why put earpiece in your ears? You are walking on the road. There is the walkway for you. Some of them, you have to slow down and beg them to please leave the road. At times, class is overloaded. PA system is not working. And you know, higher institution, one of the culture shock that many of our students have experienced in universities that you mean nobody is telling you to come in by force. As they sit down, stand up. So you can even walk into the class and go out, especially on the level when we have general course. You mean the man can be talking in the front and you choose to walk out? Then some of them, so life is as free as this. I beg, what the man is even saying, Jare, his voice is not loud. Let me go out. How will such a student sit on his own to learn? So I feel government has a lot to do, parent has a lot to do, and of course, the student themselves, they need to be helped really. I really pity, I normally tell them, I don't envy your generation. There is too much distractions. So I think we'll keep pushing right from primary school, secondary school. I think we should push them. They didn't talk about research. Rhoda talk about research. Yes. Go get this thing done and give me feedback. Give them a topic, go and get, and you demand they come back. I've seen students, you send opportunities to them.
Thank you.
And you won't see them come back. So thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much for that, for
We shouldn't have
the in-depth contribution to this topic this morning.
Our time is fast spent.
From every one of our analysts this morning, thank you. This is a timely call and a timely topic, I must say, especially because we are, this is a historical day. It's an important day in the life of our country. And if we're going to be, we're not just ticking the calendar and saying, oh, it's been this number of years since independence, and we're just counting the years, then we really must make the years count. And part of making the years count is in ensuring that the future of the country, which is our children, we really are getting them ready for that future and getting ourselves, by extension, ready for the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Omotola, Rhoda, Olushola, KK, Deary, Rotimi, who was with us earlier, and myself. I hope that we are able to do something today that just reminds us of the beauty of us being Nigerians. And as we close today, we will be leaving our audience with our usual payoff line. But remember that the Good Morning Education Show is also on tomorrow at 9 a.m. Join us for another topic of discussion tomorrow. So at the count of 2, please let's sign off this beautiful Independence Day morning. 1, 2, let's go. It's
always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have
Bye.
a great day. Bye.